everyone, thanks for joining us here at Cakes, Cooking and More. I'm Marie Lockwood. Today's recipe is homemade French bread. So let's see what we need. Okay, so for this recipe we have some flour, egg white, salt, warm water, 2 packages of active dry yeast, a little bit of vegetable oil. This is a non-stick cooking spray, and some cornmeal. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 cups of flour into our mixer. Alright, once we have those in, we are going to open up our dry yeast and we're going to add that. Our salt and our water. We're going to mix this for about 30 seconds and then we'll be back. Okay, now at this point we're going to turn that off, scrape everything down. Now we're going to stir this for 3 minutes on low to make sure that we've got that all well incorporated. Okay, so at this point we're going to turn it off. We're going to add our flour 1 cup at a time. And then mix again for about a minute after each addition. And then we'll be back. Okay, now that that is well mixed, and again, we're going to add our 1 cup of flour, and again, mix that really well, and then we'll be back. Okay, now we're going to again add 1 cup of flour, get that well mixed. At this point, you should have 5 cups in all already in there. Alright, and at this point, your dough should be basically a dough ball. You're just going to scrape that off of your dough hook. As much of that off there as you can. All right. Get that out of our way. And then we're just going to take our bowl off of there. Your dough is going to be pretty sticky still. It's about what you want. And we're just going to take a little bit of our flour and get our surface lightly floured so that our dough doesn't stick. Then we're going to take out our dough ball. Might need to use your spatula to scrape it out, but for the most part, a big chunk of it will come out in one big giant ball. Like I said, it is a little bit sticky still, so you're going to have it all over your hands. We all know how much I hate when that happens, but some recipes you just can't avoid it no matter what you do. Alright, so we're going to scrape out the rest of our dough here. You don't want to lose a big portion of it. Alright, now because we used yeast, our dough is pretty airy, And we don't want all of that air in it. If we leave all of that air in it when we cook it, we end up with these little air pockets inside where it ends up hollow. And that's not what we want. So you're going to take quite a bit of flour. You probably want an entire cup full. And we're just going to knead in as much flour as we can until the dough is no longer as sticky and until all of the flour on the counter is inside. Now this should take you somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes. And then we will be back. Okay, now that we have worked all of our flour into our dough, at this point you should have around 6 cups. And you can try to get the excess flour off your counter by that. You're just going to roll your dough. And you kind of do it like this. And just kind of force it into a round shape. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it somewhat round. Now you're going to take a bowl and lightly spray that with your cooking spray. And we're going to put our dough ball in, and we're going to turn that over, wiping it somewhat across the sides, just to get that little bit of oil on the dough. Now we're going to set this off to the side for 1 hour, and it should double in size. You want it in a warm, dry place. So, don't put it in the refrigerator. Don't set it off to, right under an air conditioning vent. Keep it in a nice warm place. Alright, so we'll be back in an hour. Okay, now that it's been an hour, you can see how large our dough ball has gotten. It's actually quite big. So that's what you want, is you want it to pretty much double in size. So now what you're going to do is just use your fist and punch in towards the middle. You want to make sure again that we get the majority of that air out. Now once you've done that, we're just going to take out our dough. And we're going to put that on a lightly floured surface again. Again, we don't want our dough to stick to the countertop. Now what we're going to do is just kind of ball towards the middle. Like I said, we're mostly just getting the air out of our dough. You're just going to pull towards the middle and pinch. Alright, now that we have that, you can use a knife if you want to, or you can do it by hand, either one. Get your dough ball lightly floured. Make sure and kind of go all the way around on the bottoms and the sides. Just kind of dip that in your flour. Alright, you're going to brush off the majority of the huge amounts. You don't want a big clump on there. Alright, now we're going to take our dough, figure out about where the halfway point is. And like I said, you can use a knife or you can do it with your hands. But you want to tear this in two. Alright, you're going to make each of those into a ball. And just like I said, pull towards the middle and pinch. And then just flip them over and dust off any extra flour. Do the same with your second one. Turn it over and dust off extra flour. Now we're going to take our towel again, and we're going to let these rest for about 10 minutes. They're not really going to get much bigger, but we do want to let them have that 10 minutes to really, let the dough set up. Alright, so while we're waiting, we're going to take our Crisco again and our paper towel, just like when we're greasing a pan. And this time we're greasing a cookie sheet. And you don't need a whole lot. You just really want it across the bottoms. Don't worry about going up the sides or anything like that. And you don't need, like I said, a whole lot. You just want a nice cover across the bottom. Now once you have that, take just a little bit of cornmeal and sprinkle that on. And you're just going to kind of tilt it and kind of get your cornmeal to cover all of that greased area. Just like you would if you were flouring a pan. You just give it a little tap and the cornmeal will come down. Doesn't have to to be perfect, but you do want to get the majority of it covered. And you're just going to set that to the side, and then we will be back in 10 minutes once our dough is ready to work with again. Okay, now that it has been 10 minutes, I'm just going to pick up our towel and set that to the side. Now we're going to set one dough ball to the side, and we're going to work with one at a time. Now if you need to, just put down a little more flour. And really, like I said, it's just to keep your dough from sticking to the counter. Now what we're going to do is, this is the side where we've been pinching it. So you're going to roll it towards that, and we're going to create a large French bread loaf. We're going to pull our ends in and squeeze towards the middle, pinching the whole time. And anytime that our bread is a little bit fat, just squeeze it a little bit more. And you're just looking for a normal French bread loaf shape. Most of you have probably seen the shape of a regular thing of French bread. And if you haven't, this is a vague shape like it. It'll be better when I'm done. Alright, you do want to pinch the ends and pull those towards the middle. You want all of your seams on the underside. And like I said, if it's too big in an area, just pinch it out a little bit more. It does get quite long, so don't worry about that. If it seems like it's getting too long, that is completely normal. Alright, so once we have those pinched towards the middle, push our seams down. You can see it ends up pretty long, and then just pull your edges towards the middle again. And do that until you're pretty happy with the size. Now, we're going to take it, brush off some of our excess flour, and we're going to lay it onto our cookie sheet with the seam down on the cornmeal that we have put out. So it should be about the size of your cookie sheet. It's about the length that we want. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing with our second one. Okay, now that we have both of our loaves sitting here and shaped how we want them with our seams down, this is a mixture of egg white with just a teeny bit of water. Just give that a little stir. And you're going to use a pastry brush and just slightly brush the top all the way down of both loaves. This helps give it that nice little bit crispier crust and a little bit of browning to it. Now for those of you who don't like to use raw egg, I know there are so many people asking for recipes with no egg in it. You can use the same amount of meringue powder with water. It comes out a little bit different because it is a powdered form, but you can use that and make your little glaze for the top without any real problems. You do have to add just a bit more water, and the package of the meringue powder will tell you how much of the powder equals one egg or egg white. I believe it's a tablespoon, but I'm not really positive on that one. So you'll have to look at your package, and like I said, you can use that. But basically all we have is some egg white and water that we're glazing it with. Alright, now once your breads are covered with your egg white mix, we are going to let this sit for about 35 to 45 minutes. And just like before when it was in the bowl, this is going to double in size. So we are waiting for that to happen, and then we'll be back. Okay, now that our dough has risen, you can see that they're quite a bit wider. We're going to take a sharp knife, and you're just going to make slits here. You just need 3 or 4, and you want to go about 1/4 of an inch down into them. right, now we're going to put these in the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, now that our bread has done the first 20 minutes, we are going to take our egg white and water mixture and just lightly brush the loaves again. You want to make sure you get all of them. You can see they're getting that nice pretty brown crust. And the egg white will actually keep them from getting burned on top. So make sure that you're using, like I said, you can use the meringue powder if you don't want to use the actual egg white. But you've got to be using something to keep it from burning on the top. Alright, so we're going to finish coating these. We're going to pop them back in the oven, still at 375 for another 20 minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, now that our bread is out, you should be able to tap them and hear kind of a hollow sound. If they don't sound hollow, they're not done. Now we're just going to lift each one over onto a cooling rack. You're going to give them about 30 minutes to an hour. It just depends on the temperature of your room, but you want to get those completely cool before we do anything else. So as soon as these have cooled down, we'll be back. Okay, now that our bread has cooled down, you have a couple choices. If you want to use it immediately, you can, of course. If you want to freeze it for later, and because it does make 2 loaves, you probably want to freeze one. What we're going to do is we take one, and depending on what you plan to do with it later, mine are just going to be side breads for other foods. So I'm just going to cut mine with a serrated knife into little pieces. Now I do this at an angle. You don't necessarily have to, but I actually like it better that way. Now this is very similar to what you would get on your bread if you're going to like Panera bread or something. So once these are all cut, I'm going to wrap them all together in saran wrap, and then I will put them inside a plastic bag, like a Ziploc bag. Then I can freeze them and take them out when I'm ready to use them. So we'll be back in a minute once these are all cut. Okay, so that is it for our episode on French bread. As you can see, I've got it cut into nice little pieces here. And like I said, if you want to store them, wrap them in saran wrap, put them in a Ziploc bag, and then you can freeze them and take them back out later, and you just reheat in the oven or the microwave. So I hope that you enjoyed our show today. Thanks for joining us here at Cakes, Cooking, and More. I'm Lockwood. Have a great day.